Today we're going to talk about Chapter 4, the nervous system. I found this simple diagram in Google Images that shows you the different levels of the spinal column: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral, and the very tip of it, the end, is coccygeal. The two procedures that are talked about in the book are the laminotomy and the laminectomy. So here I have two definitions that explain what those two surgeries are for. And we're just going to jump into the exercises. As you've probably noticed from looking at the CPT codes, the nerves section, nervous system section, is pretty complex. So I think the best thing we can do in this course is to just make you aware of the different subsections within the nervous system, the different kinds of repair procedures that are done on parts of the nervous system. And we will look at some terms as we go through these questions. The first one is using an operating microscope. The physician performs a neuroplasty of the left ring finger. So what should come to your mind? Operating microscope, it has its own entry in the index. A neuroplasty is the procedure. And when you're looking at the digits, the fingers, remember that there are modifiers on the inside of the front cover to identify individual fingers. Let's think about this operating microscope for a moment. If you review the use of the operating microscope guidelines, it tells us we will use this code when surgical services are performed using microsurgery techniques. The code is reported in addition to the primary procedure performed. Not reported when the use of the operating microscope is an inclusive component. In other words, it's in the code description. Here's a screenshot from the CPT code book with the guidelines and the description of the operating microscope. You see the little plus sign to the left of the code. That tells us it's an add-on code and reminds us that this will be reported in addition to the primary procedure that we are coding. Another little thing about these procedures: neuroplasty versus neurorrhaphy. The neuroplasty is the plastic surgery that repairs a nerve, and neurorrhaphy is the joining together, usually by suture, of two parts of a divided nerve. I think it's interesting when you look at the subsections under the nervous system, instead of having repair, as we've had in previous body systems, this one is called neurorrhaphy. They take away that repair word and just use the word specific to repair the nerves. And here's that problem we looked at a few slides ago. Using the operating microscope, the physician performs a neuroplasty of the left ring finger. Here's our codes. Our modifier F3, identifying the left hand, fourth digit, and the operating microscope is included with these two codes. And here is an exercise that has to do with the neurorrhaphy of the digital nerves, right thumb, ring finger. So we know we're going to have modifiers. And there are the modifiers identifying the right hand thumb and the right hand fourth digit. And I have a YouTube link here to the pronunciation of neurorrhaphy. If you forget how to say that, there's this YouTube account is Emma Says, Emma, like my granddaughter, emmasays.com, and she pronounces these words. So it's very interesting, and I use it quite a bit to know how to say medical words. The next one has to do with the repair of a 5 centimeter myelomeningocele. I have some information here under our facts to remember that describes to us what it is exactly. It is a very serious form of spina bifida. The images that are on Google Images were just heartbreaking, so I didn't want to add those. But there's quite a bit of information you can read about this on the Seattle Children's Hospital website. And here's the code, as well as the index pathway. This exercise has to do with an epidural steroid injection in the L5-S1 interspace. So I found this clay model, it looks like, showing you where the needle is going in to the space there. And here is the code and the index pathway. The next exercise is a craniotomy for evacuation of a supratentorial subdural hematoma. So I have several explanatory slides here. The first is a craniotomy versus a craniectomy, the difference between these two procedures. Primarily the craniotomy, the bone is replaced. The craniectomy, it is not replaced immediately. It was going to be left open for whatever reason. I believe sometimes they do that for the swelling to go down before they replace that bone. And obviously there are specialized tools that are used to remove that section of the skull. This is a nice diagram of a subdural hematoma that shows you how it is just under the dura and pressing against the side of the head. And this particular diagram also shows you the midbrain, the tentorium, the pons, and the medulla. And here I have some information about the supratentorial versus the infratentorial region of the brain. And you can see here the division in this child's brain. It shows in the diagram the cerebrum is part of the supratentorial and the cerebellum is part of the infratentorial. Back to some medical terminology reminders. Supra usually means above and infra below. And back to our question, and there's the code, and you notice there's two pathways. One is just for the craniotomy, and the second one is the hematoma using the evacuation via a craniotomy. The next one is the suture repair of the posterior tibial nerve. And I did find a diagram of the posterior tibial nerve in the back, you see, of the lower leg, just above the ankle. And that would typically repair would probably be necessary because for some reason that's been injured in an accident or something. If you have any questions about coding procedures in the nervous system, please post them in the discussion board, along with the path you've used from the index to try and find your code, and I will attempt to help you. Thanks so much and have a good day.